All right, you tell me when to start recording the audio.
Oh, I've already started, so you can go anytime.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I got too excited.
Hi,
right.
Kay.
Hi, Dom. How are you?
I'm fabulous, actually. I'm in one of those super positive moods again, which means I didn't drink last night.
Oh, nice. I didn't drink last night, technically, but I did drink all day. So does that count?
That is a total workaround. I'll pay that.
I had some incredible friends that I've known since uni come over, and we just had the best time. It was so relaxed, really good to catch up. And yeah, I feel pretty good today, though, because I was in bed by, 10:30 and had my solid 8 hours, and now I'm good to go.
Bit of shenanigans on the weekends is just what the doctor ordered.
Absolutely. All right. Why don't I just jump straight into it? I've been in this world all morning, so it's time for me to share it with someone else because I'm going to go insane if I don't share it. So the topic that we are doing... More insane. You're so right. More insane. The topic that we are looking at today is clowns. Yeah.
That was the most excited. How about I do the...
Yeah, that's the one.
There we go.
Horrifying.
Okay, I'm not being much use to you today.
That was perfect. I never know. Whenever I leave those little breaks for us to, have some conversation, who knows what's going to happen, but I like that. All right. So clowns. So clowns is a very common fear, I have found. So when we were discussing what kind of episodes we're going to do, a lot of the people I spoke to said clowns was a big fear. Very common too. So in terms of, I always like to talk about the phobia behind these, so coulrophobia is the fear of clowns. So coulrophobia. So children...
Can you spell that, please?
Yeah. Of course I can. So you would think it's coulrophobia because it's Coulrophobia, but it's phonetically pronounced coulrophobia. So that is the fear or the phobia of clowns. Children and adults who fear clowns may experience extreme irrational reactions when they see clowns in person or see pictures or videos of clowns. Someone with a fear of clowns is coulrophobic, and they will go out of their way to avoid exposure to clowns. Fair enough. So, history. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing this one, Kate, because this is such a common one, and and I believe that it's steeped in a lot of history. So I think this is probably going to be one of our most popular episodes ever because there's so much good stuff here. So I'm definitely to see what you've cooked up.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, as I'm going through, I do just briefly touch on some stories. You could do for each of these sections that I'll go through, you could genuinely do a whole episode on each. But this is a cute little wrapped up parcel of some little bit of history, the reasons behind being afraid of clowns, and a couple of examples of creepy clown stories in real life. And obviously some pop culture. I can't avoid doing something unless I'm talking about a film. So that will certainly come up as well. But yeah, it's such a huge common fear of a lot of people, children and adults. So in terms of the history, clown-like characters have been around for thousands of years. So it's not a new thing. So historically, jesters and clowns, they were used for poking fun at powerful people. So they were entertainers, but it was a way that they could, pick on emperors and kings and queens and all of that sort of stuff. So jesters and other characters that were ridiculed, they go back at least to ancient Egypt. Classic. We had our Egypt episode. But there is hieroglyphic evidence that a form of clown existed in Egypt. So to me, that's like a double whammy. Imagine being cursed by a mummified clown or something like that. Awful. But the Greeks and Romans, they also had their clowns. So they worked in, obviously when you strike back to commedia dell'arte and things like that in Greek history of performing arts and things, clowns and jesters were very popular. The English word clown first appeared sometime in the 1500s with my boy Shakespeare. He used that term to describe foolish characters in lots of his plays. The now familiar circus clown with a painted face, wig, and oversized clothing came in about the 19th century, and it's really only changed slightly in 150 years. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of the history, but it's thousands of years old, the sort of premise of the clown. Now, how does pop culture fit into my fear of clowns? So I would not say I'm coulrophobic. So naturally doing the research for this, I was looking at lots of pictures, video, content around clowns. I don't have an irrational fear, but I think I have a well-placed, concern or caution when it comes to clowns. How about yourself, Dom? Are you sort of afraid, not coulrophobic, but you certainly have a bit of a fear?
I think, yes, I wouldn't say it's one of my top fears for sure, but I think from my time living in America, in the States, I definitely inherited, I think, a little bit of it, because there is like a concentration or maybe like an obsession over there around, I don't want to do any spoilers, but where the fear of clowns came from, or some of their biggest serial murderers, or, and then pop culture as well. I think because I was at such an impressionable age, I definitely picked up on the tail end of some things that you're probably going to mention soon. And I get it, but I don't think it was the clown bit that specifically scared me. I just think maybe the storytelling and the scenarios were what scared me. Clowns themselves.
Sure.
I wouldn't say I'm phobic at all.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where, there is naturally a big difference between being, bothered by something and having a genuine clinical phobia of something. But yeah, I do go in a little bit later. I go into sort of the reason behind why people might be a little bit concerned. Or so as I'm reading through some of the examples, try to sort of keep some of those things in mind, because when we talk about the reason behind them being frightening, there's some sort of common threads that go through. So
I'm taking notes. I'm a good student, Kate.
Please do. I mean, I had to count the mysteries in last week's episode. So you could do the common threads. Common threads this week. All right. So in terms of pop culture, so modern versions of the kind of creepy clown, a lot of people would probably think straight away of It, the character from the modern adaptations. That's probably one of the most recognizable creepy clowns in the most recent history. However, the idea of a murderous and deranged clown was actually evident in 1892, when I was born, with the opera Pagliacci. Have you heard of Pagliacci before?
I have not. I heard she's lots of fun when you go out. But
she's so much fun. But yeah.
Canon.
So 1892, so very much a sort of, again, commedia dell'arte style sort of performance, but it's a tragedy. It's an opera where the story ends with an obsessive, paranoid, and insanely jealous clown going on a Shakespearean rampage, stabbing his wife, her lover, and himself to death.
Oh, okay.
So that's 1892. So we're going back a ways, where people were seeing these things in performance and going, oh, that's a bit creepy. Don't know how I feel about that.
Absolutely. That's very violent. Like I guess understand the era, but it makes perfect sense. But all of a sudden you're seeing it not from like a human perspective. You're all of a sudden seeing it from this oxymoron type. This is meant to be a really happy character, and now it's not.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and that's sort of that juxtaposition. I'll certainly sort of chat about that a little bit later, but that's a huge part of kind of the purpose behind people's caution when it comes to clowns, that's for sure. Sort of next in pop culture, if you're thinking about, famous clown-like characters, the Joker is a huge one. So the Joker was created in 1940. So he appeared in Batman #1, the comic book, DC comic. That was in 1940, and that was the Dark Knight's own comic book series. So that's where the Joker was introduced. So 1892, then 1940. So there's a lot of introductions of these characters that people are witness to, where they are those menacing, creepy, kind of not traditional sense of a clown.
Yeah.
Then we've got 1986. Stephen King writes It, the novel. Now, something fascinating I found out about that is that novel is 1,138 pages long. That is, to give you an idea, The Lord of the Rings is 1,178 pages long. So it's like 40 pages less than Lord of the Rings, the original Stephen King It novel. Wow. Insane. That is Stephen King's second longest novel that he ever wrote. And when I think of the movie, or I even think of, the original miniseries, what does he talk about for 1,100 pages? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Tolkien's like coming up with new languages and talking about the color of a tree for, I don't know, 6 or 7 chapters. And you're like, right,
easily.
Move on.
Easily. But yeah, how much, I don't know, sewer running is this character Pennywise doing in 1,200 pages of text. But I did sort of had a bit of a look, and I'm sure there's listeners out there who have read the whole novel. And it does sort of take place at 27 years worth of terror that the children go through and everything like that. So, I mean, who knows? I'm never going to read it. I'm just going to be perfectly honest. That would take me the rest of my life to read. I'm not a huge reader. I mean, I can read. That's a staple of being a teacher. I can read, but I'm a drama teacher, so it's like I can read scripts. That's enough.
I'll read it for you. How about that, Kate? Because I love to read. So
amazing.
And I am a huge fan, Stephen King fan. So
yeah, I would be. I'm sure I could do a Spark Notes, but I'd be really keen to know, what encompasses 1,200 pages of a spooky clown. So that's in 1986. 1990, the book was turned into a miniseries starring Tim Curry. Now, I thought that was a movie. I didn't realize it was a miniseries. It's a two-parter, so I didn't realize that. But yes, that was released in 1990. And then 2017 and 2019, they were the modern adaptations. So It and It Chapter 2, respectively. Mm-hmm. Now, a clown, so I've said I'm not a huge fan of scary movies, but I really enjoyed the It films. Once I kind of knew what was coming, that's the thing. It's like if I get shocked by it, I don't like it. But I'd watched a couple of YouTube videos, waited until it came out on Netflix, and then watched them. Really, really enjoyed them. I thought they were really good movies, aside from being scary. But a clown skulking about in a drain, like flip-top head, endless rows of teeth, and then especially when his eyeball just like droops, like his pupils is like just like it's completely off kilter, and he's gonna like shake his head to like put it back together again. That shit's weird. Like, I mean, I don't like it. And that was, that's the unnerving stuff. He's truly deranged. Like, did not like. But the film, really good. Another movie, which terrible reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, I think, is like a 35%. Not particularly good, but I thought it was scarier than It when I saw it. But it's called Clown. Have you seen it?
Original.
It's so good. It's really original. I bet you can't guess what it's about, but it's definitely. I found it a bit creepier because it has had a little bit of that kind of supernatural stuff. Naturally, It has that as well. But to give you, I really enjoyed. I just went onto Wikipedia for a bit of a synopsis. I won't spoil it for you, but essentially, I enjoyed their little synopsis. So Kent McCoy. Stupid character name. I don't like it. But anyway, he is a real estate agent and a loving father who hosts a birthday party for his young son, Jack. However, the clown hired for their party is unable to make it. Fortunately, Kent discovers an old clown costume in the basement of a house he's selling and puts it on.
Great idea.
Like, what an idiot.
Fucking idea.
Yeah. After the party, he falls asleep wearing the costume, and the next morning he finds he is unable to take it off. So that's the premise.
Okay.
He's forced to go to work wearing the costume. He tries to take it off again. He complains about the situation to his wife, Meg. She's able to remove the fake nose. So he has one of those, soft, squishy, fake red noses. So she manages to take that off, but she literally rips off like part of the end of his nose. So it's so stuck, like she rips that off. But anyhow, Then Meg also realizes that the clown's wig has become Kent's real hair. So it's no longer a wig, it's fused itself into his head. So he has this kind of rainbow wig. His face has been, his nose has partially been ripped off. So it's all red and scabby, essentially a natural kind of clown nose from a wound. So awesome. Thank you. Kent starts to exhibit strange behavior and experiences a deep sense of hunger eating all the food in his house. Then Kent enlists the help of Herbert Carlson, the suit's previous owner. Carlson begs him not to touch the costume, but after learning that Kent is already wearing it, he insists on meeting him at an old costume warehouse. Totally normal. And then Kent learns that the costume is the hair and skin of an ancient Icelandic demon called the Cloyne.
Oh my goodness.
It's got, it has the umlaut above the O as well, but that's essentially the premise as the movie continues. So he had some makeup on, he can't take the makeup off. So it's like his face goes all weird and yucko, and then like starts to grow the weird teeth, and it's just goes downhill. But I thought that like Cloyne, it kind of sounds a little bit just like how you'd say clown if you had a thick Irish accent or something like that. Make sure you don't stop the Cloyne. Don't let the Cloyne in. Yeah. Which I enjoyed. But look, to be honest, it doesn't end well for the kiddies or the Cloyne. Apparently he has to eat kids or something. Anyhow. But if you want to be sort of real creeped out, I liked that one. I thought it was pretty creepy.
And what year is it?
Great question. It's a year that the film came out. Pick a year. I didn't actually write that down.
No,
I can.
It's probably around, like, it sounds like it could be in response to it. So I imagine it's probably in the 90s or even early 2000s could be made.
Yeah, 2014.
Oh, okay.
So a few years before, a couple of years before the adaptation of it, but certainly after the miniseries. So, we've got a fair bit of pop culture that is essentially, it's demonizing clowns. So no wonder people have a little bit of a fear, because they are, there's so many pop culture references and so many films and stories that paint them in this light that no wonder people have a reasonable sense of fear around these characters when they're not really shown as what their original intention was, is to be, fun and laughing and tell jokes and be a sense of joy. They've been completely flipped. So the other, which this could be, something that was the tail end of you being in the States. I think this is around the time you might have been in there, towards the end part. But I can't talk about clowns and horror without talking about John Wayne Gacy. Yeah. So John Wayne Gacy, for those of you that don't know, now, again, there would be hundreds of episodes of true crime stories about John Wayne Gacy. But if you haven't listened to any of those or you don't really know, here's a really little snapshot. So John Wayne Gacy's public face was a friendly, hardworking guy. He was also a registered clown who entertained at community events under the name of Pogo. But between 1972 and 78, he sexually assaulted and killed more than 35 young men in the Chicago area. And he told investigating officers before his arrest, clowns can get away with murder. Mm-hmm. But he didn't get away with it, thank God. He was found guilty of 33 counts of murder and was executed in 1994. So when were you in the States?
Yes, that's when I was
around that time. Yeah.
But there are so many podcasts you could go listen to. So go listen to Red Handed or My Favorite Murder or Case File. Like, just go, because it is 2 or 3 episodes in itself, and it's terrible.
Yeah. And so after all of that, he was identified as the killer clown. So now all of a sudden you're seeing his picture or Pogo on the front page of a newspaper saying killer clown. So it's not really working for the clown's PR department for people to think of them in a positive light when you're seeing that this guy was charged with 33 counts of murder. But there could be more, who knows? But bizarrely, and this is creepy too, Gacy loved his clown persona. So when he was in prison, he began painting lots of portraits. A lot of them are clowns, self-portraits of him as Pogo. But the other thing was that he had already been convicted of sexual assault in 1968. So, 6 or 7 years prior to him going on this rampage. And then after that, he was convicted. He was still given access to perform as Pogo and go to children's parties. And no thanks. So that kind of fueled America's fear of that stranger danger and predatory behavior. And really made clowns a subject of suspicion. Like they were just like, no, we don't trust clowns. No, thank you. Totally valid.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating time in human history, the 70s, 80s, and a little bit into the 90s, that if it wasn't stranger danger, it was also like satanic stuff as well. And just the paranoia and the shift in human behavior from leaving your doors unlocked, kids out on the street, go get yourself an ice cream from the ice cream Mr. Whippy.
Yeah.
And then it just did this massive flip on its head. It's like, preaching to the choir here, I think, but if anyone loves true crime, you know that the 70s and 80s are just...
Yeah, most definitely. Now, if we look at sort of a little bit later on, there started to become sort of a little bit of a craze around dressing up like a clown, scaring people. Some people did it as, a form of performance art. There was someone who dressed up like a clown in North Hampshire for over a year and just stood on the corner holding balloons. Really creepy. But that was part of a photography, I suppose, project that went for over 12 months. But this story, so I found a couple of real life stories. Naturally, John Wayne Gacy is a huge one. Again, you can go and listen to separate stuff about that. But here were a couple of other little real life stories that certainly creep me out. So on May 26, 1990, in Wellington, Florida, Marlene Warren opened her door to find a bald-nosed clown holding a bouquet of red and white flowers and 2 balloons, one emblazoned with a picture of Snow White. The clown shot her point blank in the face, and she died 2 days later in hospital. Warren's teenage son saw the clown run into a white Chrysler LeBaron and escape, never to be found.
And it's a LeBaron.
Yeah, right. When I was reading that,
worst car.
The Palm Beach County Sheriff said that this is the strangest thing I've seen in all my 19 years of law enforcement. Warren's husband, Michael Warren, he was the prime suspect in this crime. Police searched his office at a West Palm Beach car dealership, and they found evidence that he tampered with odometers, but nothing that connects him with the wife's murder. So it's like, yeah, cool. He's done a Ferris Bueller, but we can't find a clown suit.
Yeah, fuck it. We don't need to find the clown. We'll get this guy for fucking with odometers.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Look, there was a suspected affair and a 5-figure life insurance policy that made this whole situation look a bit suspicious. Michael Warren was allegedly romantically involved with a female employee. The flowers and balloons delivered before Marlene Warren's murder were purchased at stores near the employee's apartment, and costume shop employees tentatively identified her as the woman who purchased a clown costume on the same day, but neither were charged with murder, and the case remains unsolved.
Wow.
So, yeah, that is, just check your little peephole before you go and open your door. And if a clown's standing there, don't do it. Don't open the door.
I'm so fascinated. I want to go and read more about this. I just loved unsolved cases. It's my favorite thing in the world.
So cool. And I'll be curious as well. So, I mean, that article was from, I think, 2014. So it could have been solved in that meantime. But definitely creepy. That's for sure.
Oh, my God, yeah. I mean, and look, in Australia, for those that are listening and don't live in Australia, peepholes are not really a common thing.
No.
Whether you're in the suburbs or whether you live in the city, if you live in an apartment, sure, you might have like a security door and a phone, and you can see who's buzzing you. But no, peepholes are not really an Australian thing, so you don't know who's going to be on the other side of the door.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah.
A clown, you can.
Yeah, if it's a clown, you can get stuffed. I will be locking all my doors. No, thank you. So the next story that I found, and there was quite a few around sort of 2014, 2015, 2016, all over the world, some people just going clown nuts. I don't know what was going on, but yeah. So for example, October 2014, armed clowns terrified residents in Wasco and Bakersfield in California. Is it Wasco? Does that sound right? Who knows? Why should we get to a point where we care about pronunciation by now? What is this?
Look, if you're the first Shit and Bricks listener from Wasco, California, I give you full permission to email us and let us know what we're doing wrong.
Please do. In fact, audio recordings of phonetic pronunciation is better. So just send us some audio clips. So anyhow, the sightings began after a Wasco couple posted photos of themselves in creepy clown costumes as part of a year-long art project. But then those photos went viral and copycats started to appear. The Bakersfield Police Watch Commander, Lieutenant Jason Matson, told Reuters that we've been having sightings all over the city. They range anywhere from a guy carrying a gun to a guy carrying a knife and running up to houses. No, thank you. One teen was arrested for chasing a minor while dressed as a clown, but no other pranksters were caught. Various Twitter and Instagram accounts from the time, including a Facebook fan page, posted images claiming to be the creepy clowns. They've all been deactivated, except for one, apparently. Yes. And then 2013 was the Northampton clown, who essentially looked a bit like Pennywise and, again, would just stand on the corner of a street like a traffic intersection and just stare at people. Didn't say anything, didn't do anything, just stared at people. So that was a little bit creepy. Yeah. So
I mean, interesting. Artistically, I love that idea of, I don't want to take credit from someone who's honestly trying to do something in an artistic way. But yeah, it's. Ooh.
I think as well, it's sort of, as we're going through, the things that kind of jump out at me is that standing and just staring silently, like it's unnerving. That's the big thing. You're just like, what's going on? I don't like it. Please don't. Which is very creepy, but certainly, I mean, look on YouTube, look on Twitter, look on Instagram, whatever. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of videos of people, playing pranks and dressing up like clowns and standing in an elevator. And, obviously Halloween is a huge time for people to dress up like all manner of clowns. Your kind of traditional, like Bozo the Clown type deal, or you've also got the ridiculously scary ones with the, huge eyes and sharp teeth and crazy hair and all of that sort of stuff. But it's just the creepiness factor is what gets you, I suppose. So looking into that, I was curious. There's so many examples of scary clowns. That's a given. I've touched on just a couple of them. But what I was more interested in is, why do we find clowns scary? What is it about them? Why is it something that is so terrifying? Or what is it about it? Because that was my biggest thing, kind of wanting to write this episode, was this. Again, it's easy to say, all of the examples of clowns I can think of are scary. So what is it about them that makes them scary? So I found this exceptional article, and I'm just going to use a little snippet of it, but I encourage, and I will post the link for it, but I encourage anyone to read it because it's fantastic. It is by a psychologist by the name of Frank T. McAndrew. So he's a professor of psychology, and he wrote an article about the psychology behind why clowns creep us out. And so I'll share a bit with you, which will give you a bit of an idea of, the psychology behind it, which I love. So the section of the article I want to cover is the nature of creepiness. So we spoke about creepiness. This is the nature of that. So psychology can help explain why clowns, the supposed purveyor of jokes and pranks, often end up sending chills down our spines. So Frank's research was one of the first studies of creepiness. So there haven't really been a lot in terms of that specific study of why things creep us out. So this is one of them. Now, Frank had a hunch that the feeling, that feeling creeped out might have something to do with ambiguity. So not really knowing how to react to a person or a situation. So they created the study and they recruited just over 1,300 volunteers, ranging in age from 18 to 77, to fill out an online survey. So the first section of the survey, they rated the likelihood that a hypothetical creepy person would exhibit 44 different behaviors, such as unusual patterns of eye contact or physical characteristics like visible tattoos. In the second section of the survey, participants rated the creepiness of 21 different occupations. And in the third part, they simply listed 2 hobbies that they thought were creepy. And then in the final section, participants noted how much they agreed with 15 statements about the nature of creepy people. So they've got a pretty good pool of information. So 4 different sections of this survey to gauge how 1,400 people believe, how they think that people are creepy. All right, now, the results indicated that people we perceive as creepy are much more likely to be males than females. I found that really interesting. And that unpredictability is an important component of creepiness, and that unusual patterns of eye contact and other non-verbal behaviors set off our creepiness detectors big time. As I was reading this, straight away I'm thinking about everything I've just mentioned prior to getting to creepy, unusual eye contact, non-verbal behaviors. Like, hello, this is just the plot to it, Yeah. I was talking about his woozy eye before. That's the same. It's the same thing. It goes on to unusual or strange physical characteristics, such as bulging eyes or wonky eyes, a peculiar smile, or inordinately long fingers. Now, they didn't, in and of themselves, perceive someone as creepy. So those elements individually, we don't necessarily perceive one as creepy. But the presence of weird physical traits can amplify any other creepy tendencies the person might be exhibiting, such as persistently steering the conversation towards weird sexual topics, or failing to understand the rules of bringing a snake or a goat into the office. So, Pam brings her pet snake when it says in the handbook, Pam, don't bring your pet snake, doll. It's weird. Nobody's bothered. That in and of itself is kind of like, okay, Pam's a bit of a kook. She keeps bringing her snake in to work. But if Pam walks in with bulging eyes, long fingers and teeth poking out and brings the snake too, there sets off our creepiness. Yeah. Our creepiness Richter scale is, yeah. Shout out to Pam, by the way. Love you.
Oh, we love you.
Pam, the snake wrangler. Love your work. All right. Now, when Frank asked people to rate the creepiness of different occupations, surprise, surprise, the top of the list, cloynes. It's our friends cloynes.
So misunderstood.
Oh, I know. It's sad. And there was a part of the article I did omit from this, but it was around people that are genuinely passionate about clowning and about that as an art form and as about a form of entertainment and trying to bring happiness and joy. But they've just got such a shit rep. Like, it's really hard to fight against
And that's what I think. That's what it goes back to for people. It's something... We've done this in previous episodes too, Kate, where we talk about a doll, for instance. Like, a doll is meant to be the epitome of a sweet, innocent child's toy. It's as innocent as it could possibly be, innocuous as it could possibly be. So therefore, anything out of the norm of it, almost like... I don't know what the word is.
I guess it just breaks that.
It's even more scary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. It's just flipping. It's that juxtaposition. It is supposed to identify as something that does this. But if you flip that on its head, then all of a sudden it just goes to the completely opposite end of the spectrum. It doesn't even become neutral. It's like, nah, you go from innocent and lovely as a doll, then you make the movie Chucky and we're all fucked. Like, there's no in between. It's just innocent, cute, bringing joy, doll, clown, whatever the case is, or it's got a Pez head that's full of teeth and its eye goes wobbly. Like that's it. There is no in between. So
these are things and objects that are meant to make you feel safe or bring out your vulnerability or, you know, all that sort of stuff. So you're in a state where you're more likely to get scared because this thing is trying to draw you down one direction, and then it's
totally. Yeah. So look, back to Frank's study. So the results of the survey, they were consistent with the theory that getting creeped out is a response to the ambiguity of a threat. And that's when we're confronted with the uncertainty of that threat. That's when we get those chills. So, you know, for example, it would be considered rude and strange to run away in the middle of a conversation, you know, with someone who's sending out a creepy vibe. But that is actually harmless. You know, running away or somebody else running away, that's harmless. But at the same time, it could be perilous to ignore your intuition and engage with that individual if they are, in fact, a threat. So the ambivalence of that situation, that's when it leaves you frozen in place and you just are in a state of discomfort.
Terror.
That's the issue. Yeah, you don't know how to respond. You're like, yeah, I can run away. But then you're like, no, that's weird. So I won't, but I'll stay here. But you're weird. I don't know what's going on. I'm very uncomfortable. That's where that comes from. Sorry
to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, please.
That reminds me of the Colleen Stan testisode that we did, where we talk about, especially women, often in these horrible situations where there's like kidnapping or anything like that, who feel that they've got to be people pleasers, and they say, I don't want to get out. Like Colleen Stan, there's a box next to her in the back of the car. I'm freaked out, but I don't want to get out and seem rude to these lovely people that have given me a lift. So I'll just convince myself that it's all normal and safe and stay.
That's right.
Her gut was telling her to get the hell out of there because this is not normal, and you don't need to be a people pleaser.
Exactly right.
You don't owe these people anything.
Yep. I know.
Someone's freaking you out. You can be rude. Be rude.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Exactly. Like, imagine how the story of the Macca's phone scam episode we just released, how that story would have ended had they just gone, no, this is weird. I'm not accepting this. Bye. No story. The end. No trauma. No absolute horrifying detail. Like, that would be it. It's really strange how the human psyche is like, I don't want to upset you. So I will stand here and listen to the same conversation you've told me 47 times because I don't want to appear rude. So, yeah, that's kind of the that basis of when you are feeling uncomfortable about a situation. If someone's staring at you and, you know, they start dribbling or their eye goes wonky, like in it, you're just like, oh, it'd be rude to go because, oh, I don't know what's going on, but so I won't. I'll stay. But oh God, he's so weird. So you just stay. Yes. So look, the reaction of that, Frank says, that can be adaptive. So something that we evolved with. So being creeped out is a way to maintain vigilance during a situation that could be dangerous. So it hasn't set off, you know, the extreme flight or fight response, but you're building up to that. You're like, I'm just going to stay tuned into this, see what's going on. But that's where that creeped out feeling comes from. So in light of the study results, it's not at all surprising that clowns were found to be creepy. But Rami Nader, who's a Canadian psychologist who studies coulrophobia, so remember that's the actual phobia of clowns, so an irrational fear. Nader believes that clown phobias are fueled by the fact that clowns wear makeup and disguises that hide their true identities and feelings. This is perfectly consistent with Frank's hypothesis that it's the inherent ambiguity surrounding clowns that makes them creepy. So whilst they might seem happy because they have a smile painted on their face, are they really happy? And they're mischievous in nature, so that puts people on guard. So people interacting with a clown during a routine, they don't know if they're going to get a pie in the face or if they're going to get pranked or something's going to happen. So you're already on guard. And then the highly unusual physical characteristics. So the wig, red nose, makeup, odd clothing, that just magnifies that uncertainty. What is this clown going to do? Like, I'm not into this. I don't like the uncertainty. Get away from me. Don't spray me with your little water flower. I don't want a bar of it.
Rules of logic don't apply to this creature.
Correct.
They're not properly human. They are something else.
Yeah.
I can't read what to expect from their shoes, their pants, their hair, their wig, their smut. It's unpredictable, which makes them such great entertainers, but so poised to scare the shit out of you too.
That's it. So it's just that, everybody just has that deep-seated kind of, I'm going to be wary of this character. So, that sets a really good basis for them to turn them into these creepy things, because they lean into those fears. That's what it is. They're leaning into those unusual physical characteristics, or those, they'll stare at you, or they don't say anything, that those non-verbal communicators that make people unnerved. They'll just lean into them as heavily as they can, and bang, like you're already freaked out. It's a perfect recipe. Now, in turn, like in addition to clowns, Frank was saying through that survey, the other types of people that creep us out are taxidermists and undertakers. So they, sort of close. And then I got to say, I could not have finished this article better than Frank, so I'm just going to read this verbatim. It says, taxidermists and undertakers made a good showing on the creepy occupation spectrum, but they have their work cut out for them if they aspire to the level of creepiness that we automatically attribute to clowns. In other words, they have big shoes to fill.
I didn't see that coming.
Well done, Frank. That was great. I honestly couldn't have ended that article better. So I just kept that. So huge shout out to my boy Frank T. McAndrew. It's actually Francis T. McAndrew. But I found that article on theconversation.com, but he does have a paper as well. So his actual research findings and all of the detail and information as well. But I loved that whole description, and it makes complete sense. It's so kind of obvious if you think about it, but it's just something that I found really fascinating researching and trying to determine what it is about clowns that creep us the hell out. And turns out it's that uncertainty and that fear of a threat, but you don't really know, so you just get stuck.
I think you did such a great job, Kate, of getting, because we could get lost in a specific story. And hey, we might do it in the future, but
absolutely,
I think this is a great way to introduce the topic of clowns to folks before you jump into like a full-blown story. Like, one day we'll have to do John Wayne Gacy. We'll just see another one of them, and we'll do it anyway. Or maybe I'll do it because it seems a little more dark and up my alley more so than you. But
perfect.
It does remind me, after listening to you explain it in such a clear way, it reminds me of why we find things like masks, so scary as well. It's not necessarily, but just any sort of mask hides that part of the face where you are meant to read people's emotions or their intent from it.
Absolutely.
And as soon as it's covered, you don't know what to expect. And clowns are just another form of a mask, really. And if you think, like, imagine if you saw David Copperfield, that's his name, the magician. Like, if you saw any magician, any favorite magician of yours, you know that something interesting is going to happen, and they're going to do something that you can't quite puzzle out, but you still aren't scared of the magician necessarily, because the magician's just another human being doing some cool stuff. Imagine if a magician did a creepy grin the whole time, and creepy long ears, and then did magic. You'd be freaked the hell out.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't trust the magician anymore. You'd be like, oh, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. And it's even, that fear of uncertainty, a fear of unknown, you can absolutely, if you read anything about any kind of anxiety or anything like that, it's so common. It's just something that is just in the human psyche, to be concerned about things that are either out of our control or we don't understand. We're not sure. We've got to put everything in a box. Let's just pop it in a box. That's, a human being doing tricks Or you go, hang on, that doesn't fit into a box because I think it's a person, but they got a big costume and a mask and stuff, and they're doing weird stuff, and I don't feel comfortable, but I don't want to be rude and leave the show because I paid for a ticket, so I'll just sit here and be uncomfortable. So it's so human. That is so incredibly human to do that.
But the pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing too, it made me think of when you were talking about masks and you were talking about, wanting to see what's beyond that mask. And I spoke about Batman and the Joker earlier, but one of my most favorite scenes, because you want to see the weird stuff. You want to kind of, know what happened. But one of my most favorite scenes to teach in media about suspense is the scene in The Dark Knight when Harvey Two-Face reveals his deformed face. And if you watch the sequence, you're kind of introduced to it, and then it's I think it's around 2.5 minutes before you actually see what you want to see. So from the second that Gary Oldman walks in there and starts speaking to him, all you want to do is see his deformed face. You know it's happened. I want to see it, but it takes about 2.5 or so minutes to get there. If you watch that, just sit with that uncomfortable feeling, because you're just like, oh, it's the anticipation. It's like, oh, what's it going to be like when I see it? It's that kind of build up, that suspense. I just attribute that to that sense of when a clown is in front of you, that's how you're feeling. You don't know how to process it. You need something to be revealed so that you feel comfortable. But with a clown, it's never done. So it's just nonstop.
Oh, Kate, you've outdone yourself this week. Well done. That was
Thank you.
Such a beautiful combination of history and stories, and then the actual reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I'm fortunate there's people out there that have written so much about it, and I can just ride their coattails and cram it all together in a 45-minute episode. But I really enjoyed this episode this week. I thought it was a lot of fun to research, and I don't have coulrophobia because I was able to look at pictures without shitting myself. So bonus.
Yeah, well, congratulations. It is nice to get to the end of the episode and not have to go change our diapers.
Yeah, that's so true. Not again anyway. Like I already put a freshie on for the start of the ep, so it's too soon. I'm going to go through them too fast. They're expensive.
I'm just going to get a colostomy bag, I was thinking, and just cut out the middle person. But anyway.
All right.
I shouldn't joke about that.
That's true. But, if people are going to get offended by that, then they're on the wrong podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, Dom, what are you thinking of doing for next week? What can our listeners look forward to for next week?
I wanted to tackle something that's, I wouldn't say it's one of my biggest fears, but it's definitely a fear of mine. And I think almost everyone has experienced this as a kid, getting lost as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have ourselves, but I do have pretty fresh or vivid memories of things in the department store, carnival, or out shopping, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And just that shift. Anyway, so I'm doing a story on lost children, missing children.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
That sounds exciting. Well, I mean, not exciting for those people that got lost, but exciting for me to listen to and enjoy. Perfect. Yeah. Well, you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And to our listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into our episode. We're feeling like we're on a little bit of a roll now. So make sure that you do subscribe. Jump onto Podchaser and give us a review and a like, and tell one person you're listening to this and that you're having a fun time, and then that'd be great. We'd love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're coming up to the end of the year. We've got some exciting things planned for the end of the year and some for the next year. So I don't know when this one will come out. It'll probably be around the holiday time, but please stay tuned. There's some exciting things.
Yippee! All right. See you, Dom. Have a great day.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.